Yes.
Get down in there, shirk off the defender.
Holy smokes, did he get high? Oh, that's right. Lift that bag of potatoes if you got to inside. Hit on a reach around.
But boy, did it look good in real time.
This is Plain White Toast, of course. I am the Gambino. With me, as always, my co-host, my partner in crime, my Louise to my Thelma.
Yeah,
Jake the Snake. How we doing, Jake?
I'm doing well. Basketball season is up. It's begun. I'm excited, and Santa's coming. So,
brother, oh my gosh, it seems like forever. What has it been? 3 months?
Yeah, maybe 2 months.
Also, yeah, give or take a month. As always, when we're talking NBA, we cannot do it without our NBA senior correspondent, Mr. Cody Bass. What do you say, Mouth? How we doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Just getting ready for the holidays. The holidays are bestowed upon me right now with the NBA League Pass on right now. So, I'm loving life.
Well, we wanted to talk about the two games that we're playing here on the 22nd here. The early game, the Warriors at the Nets. I wanted to kind of break down some numbers here for it. Durant, looks like he got 25 minutes with 22 points. Kyrie Irving, of course, 25 minutes, 20.
So Durant looked really good and Kyrie looked really good. I thought LeVert looked good in the six-man role. And Durant, was really, that stood out with me is that he was making really good basketball plays. Like, he was not sitting back just shooting threes. He was cutting to the basket, setting screens for others, just dribble handoffs, fadeaways. And that 22 points you look at, keep in mind, to your point, it's that game was a blowout pretty much by the time the second quarter started. So 22 had it been a close game and he got more minutes, that very easily can have been over 30 points. So
yeah, I think Irving only scored 2 points in the second half before they ended up pulling him. I think he got 22 or 24 in the first half itself. So
yeah, and Durant, I believe, had 10 in the first quarter. I think he took five of their first 7 shots. But it could have been wildly better if the game was actually in hand. But big takeaway I look at with that game is me underselling Brooklyn and me way overselling Golden State. I look at that and that team, and it's easy to look at Durant, easy to look at Kyrie. But if you look at some of these other players on that team with Karis LeVert going into a 6-man role, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Taurean Prince. You have a lot of good guys on this team that they're good basketball players that know their role, and they could be a very scary team in the Eastern Conference.
Let me ask you this then, Cody. If Kevin Durant stays healthy, if Kyrie Irving stays sane,
and that's a big what
if.
What
do you see? And
yeah,
those
are two big ifs.
With only one game down, I know that's only one game, but where do you see them ending at the end of the season in the Eastern Conference? Where do you see them?
If last night was any indication of what the team is capable of, you could very likely see the team in the NBA Finals. And I know that's that's a real big hot take to take with just one game being played. Yeah.
No, that's a hot take.
That's a hot take.
Time for a hot take. What you gonna say? It's a hot take.
But if you see what you've seen on the floor, they can pretty much do everything well at every position on the court. They're pretty stacked, and everyone seems really engaged, and they want to play with each other. So
yeah,
I don't think it's not outlandish to see that as their ceiling of what they can.
They're having a lot of fun, huh? That's what I noticed is they're kind of they've got a camaraderie between them that may wear off by the 10th game of the season. I don't know, but honestly, don't you feel like that when Golden State first was building their thing, they kind of had a kind of a togetherness that was really.
This could be the anti one though, because the way between Kyrie and Durant, how they kind of take this villainous role against the media and driving negative narratives. Yeah. It's
absolutely.
If they would just take a lesson from Tim Duncan or Kawhi Leonard, it's just don't say anything.
Yeah.
And just don't give them any ammo if you don't like the media that much. But to sit there and You make bold, outlandish claims. You act up in the media.
They pout.
And then you act. Yeah, it's like, well,
Yeah.
you can drive down that narrative by giving them boring stuff. And so it's an anomaly to me. I don't understand what's so hard to get with that. So
it's half of it you have to say is, especially from Kyrie Irving's vantage point, it has to be, look at me, because honestly, if he doesn't like the media, and when you don't like the media, they compound it, they start being more assholes, ask more asshole type questions, that sort of thing. And then that begets the asshole in Kyrie Irving, that sort of thing. Like you said, a Kawhi Leonard, a Tim Duncan, just, go out there, give them the numbers. That's it, but
it's blood in the water. They're sharks. And I'm not going to sit here and defend the media like full front. Like, I understand that there's bad actors out there that are going to take advantage, and they want their distinct narrative to be driven because it gives them a vantage point to prop themselves up for their own personal gain. So it's
without a doubt.
So to be naive about it, like I understand there's bad actors, but the majority of them, if you don't give them that ammo, then you're going to be better off.
Here's my problem. So Kevin Durant has an interview with the TNT guys. Okay, because the TNT game has an interview with them after the game. I'm sure some of you saw it. And he just the way he acted during that interview was like these guys were out to get him. And let's just say that we all know that these guys are out for jokes and teasing and having fun and respecting a player, but really teasing. That's part of their shtick, right? And if you can't take their fun vibe to do that, you should have seen Durant. He didn't want to. His head was down, and every time Charles asks him a question, he gives a one-word answer. And they cut away after the interview, and they made fun of him, which was cool. They made fun of him. They go, there was a lot of energy in that interview. Like, really appreciated that. But that kind of pissed me off a little bit because, come on, dude, if you're thinking these guys are a threat, then you are a very sensitive person, and obviously he is.
I think that's a lot of it, though. Is I think they're both kind of oversensitive little bitches. Like,
there you go.
They take
For real.
Like. And some of it, and I'll take a step back on, I will never truly understand having 1,000 journalists say you're a pile of shit for anything you say or do.
Yeah.
So I understand, some people can handle it better, some people can handle it worse. That TNT thing reminds me of, some type of, I don't know if Charles Barkley has said anything outside of, Durant signing with Golden State was a chicken shit move type of thing.
Yeah, which everybody said.
Not verbatim, yeah. But it sounds like he's got some type of... There's some type of beef with Charles where he's like, I'm not dealing with your shit, I'm not going to answer.
For real.
I'm not going to give you something good,
I thought of that, too.
Which is,
there was something going on there, something extra.
Is it me, or is, of all the professional sports, the NBA has the biggest crybabies?
Oh, sure.
Wouldn't you say? I'm trying to think of... It's definitely not NHL,
It's the most ego-driven. There's a thing, I seen this from a few years ago. It wasn't a stat, it was a survey. It was about something about player recognition, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think will add some credence to why NBA players kind of act the way that they do, diva-wise, right? Mm-hmm. And it was something like Mike Trout, who right now is pretty much the best baseball player on the planet. He gets paid buku bucks, tears it up. He was ranked, I believe, 74th in overall, athlete recognition level.
Oh, right, yeah.
And at time and place, he was right below Kenneth Faried, who at the time and place he was almost out of the league with Brooklyn. Well, think about this. Do you know the left guard of the Arizona Cardinals? If he walks into a bar, are you going to be like, oh my God, this is... So the left guard for the Arizona Cardinals, they have helmets on. They're not notable things. But can you name the sixth man for Orlando right now? I can.
Yeah, well, you can. Of course, you can. Give me a second, and I can. But no, I agree.
Let's switch it over to real quick to the Warriors. There's not a lot to say. you can tell right from that game there that it's going to likely be a long season for the Warriors with Klay Thompson out. I heard he was texting back and forth with Steve Kerr. I don't know if it was during the game, but yeah, I mean you can tell Curry is Curry, you know, and I think he ended with what
20
points. I think 20 points. Wiggins, and I know Cody's going to touch on this as well, looked just unenthusiastic, you know, just Wiggins being Wiggins. It wasn't that, what were you guys saying that Wiggins has, Cody, one of the slowest coast to coast of any NBA player? Was that Wiggins?
Yeah, that was Wiggins.
Yep. It's like speed of, it's not necessarily pace driven, but kind of is. It's like steps taken in a game, and his speed, like crossing the half court line, is down there with the centers in the league for one of the most athletic people in the entire NBA, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But you I don't know. You watch Golden State and the way like they back in their prime, the way they would move the ball, it was an art.
Beautiful.
Like it was beautiful to watch. Yep. You see Wiggins play, and he's holding the ball, trying to get his, doing like these post ups and holding the ball too long. Yeah. Can't hit any shot. Can't play any defense.
Yeah. It didn't. There was a couple of them. Wiseman had some garbage time, right? As you had mentioned, Cody. And let me just say, Wiseman may have my top spot for the best fro in all
best
of NBA.
Fro, yeah, fro.
Yeah.
Wesley Matthews had a great fro later on when we'll talk about that game, but he had a Ben Wallace like fro. I had my fro radar on last night.
That is a fro to which I gauge all other fros. Wallace had a fantastic one.
Wait a minute, Ricky. Speaking of hair, I think that part of the problem with Golden State, I think Steph Curry's cornrows were way too tight, which may have caused some discomfort. I think cornrow Steph is not the Steph that the Golden State Warriors need this year. He needs to undo those shits, or however you make them back to normal.
Yeah, especially without Klay, without any kind of offense outside of himself.
Oh, man.
Probably want to play with a ball cap, you know. So people kind of just
there you go.
Don't see his face. And it seems terrible because you know this is Curry's his prime time. You know, I mean his prime years, I should say, with Klay being out again this year. Oh
he
man,
just needs help.
It's just tough for him.
He needs help,
Yeah.
and he needs a veteran guy out there that knows what they're doing, knows what Golden State's running, and can shoot the ball. You know, with some consistency.
Let me ask you, Cody. Are they already pissed at their acquisition of Wiggins? I mean, or is this something? Or do you see this somehow imploding? Personally, that's what I see it. Down, you know, I can see him with a 4-17 start, something like that. You know, and just their locker room imploding. Wiggins would obviously, you know, he sticks out like a sore thumb with that. You know. With his lack of hustle, I guess we can call it. Do you see that Golden State team imploding by year's end, or where do you see them at the end of the season?
I'm not very inspired much by what I see on the court right now.
Yeah, maybe.
It's gonna need. I mean, it's just one game, and maybe they just need more time to gel. But as it currently stands, I view them. Oubre and Wiggins, I totally oversold what their contributions could be without understanding what their negatives are or what they couldn't bring to the table. And Oubre's kind of been, looking back at it, Oubre's, one of his major things throughout his career has been consistency. And so he can do really good one game, and then he can have 3 games where he's not doing shit. And if this team's really going to be competing for a playoff spot in the tough West, like that's not going to cut it. And I thought that maybe, and only this season will tell how that carries out. But Oubre kind of concerns me. And then obviously Wiggins, he's the one that stuck out to me last night. As I previously mentioned, he's not helping share the ball distribution to get guys open, playing with that pace and frenetic energy that Golden State thrived on. And I thought that would be a perfect environment for him to utilize like open space for his athleticism, that he would just thrive in that, especially with the spacing with Curry, even Oubre shooting, that he would thrive with cuts and like feel enthused and want to play some defense. And I didn't, all I seen from him last night was give me the ball, let me isolate, I'm going to back some people down and see if I can get my bucket. And
yeah. And we've seen him play a different way. We've seen him play the way you had mentioned, So you're almost kind of like when you're watching, you're hoping to see that, And you can see a lot of these things kind of come together, and you find yourself yelling at the TV,
Yeah, I think a lot's going to really depend on Kerr as well. Like, is this going to be a learning experience, like where they have videotape evidence of like, dude, like this is exactly what we do not want to see from you, and really like holding his feet to the fire, and maybe that will happen organically, and that change will happen as they get comfortable with each other. But as it stands right now, like they're one of the teams I look at my previous predictions, and I definitely feel like I oversold what I felt what they were capable of.
Will they make the playoffs? I know it's one game in, but inquiring minds want to know.
I would drop. I think they would be at worst case scenario like the play-in team, so not necessarily the 8th seed, but that 9th spot.
Yeah.
And another thing too is I had heard that Draymond Green is going to miss significant time.
Oh boy!
And Draymond's some significant firepower for this team.
He's a real deal, man.
Yeah.
Just on the court, like his energy, his command, his leadership, like that, something like that. Like he could help them a ton, especially with Curry out there to counterbalance with the offensive threat, the 3-point shooting. If he's going to miss more than a month, it might be too late for him. So, and to your point too, Ricky, is if the season, if they get to like a 4-17 start, like do they try to move Wiggins?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But what can you get? What could you get for him?
A cup of coffee. That's all I want for him.
Yeah, maybe some Dunkin' Donut coffee.
Good cup.
Not Starbucks, nothing like that.
Yeah, I can't think of a team that would take him on without. They're not going to give up anything major for it. It would be like a salary dump, but
this was supposed to be his resurgence. You're right. This was supposed to be his step up to something better.
Yeah, exactly. Like to his credit, it's like it's still the story's not told yet. We're talking about the first page. Yeah, the first page has been read, and we're like we're nervous because it looks like, hey, like this looks like it's trending the way it's always been, which is always cause for concern. But this team does have really good leadership within the organization, and
they'll be all right.
Maybe this will lead to something that could. Story's not all the way told, I guess.
The story's not all the way told, but there's been a lot of spelling errors in this first page.
I know.
I will say, I'll end it with this one here. If anyone can turn Wiggins around, and again, it's only one game. We take that into account. If anyone can turn that play around, it would be Steve Kerr. Because I don't think he's going to put up with kind of those I say annex, but they're not really annex. Just kind of that level of play. I mean, what did he play? 31 minutes. He got Baker's dozen.
13
I think 13
points. Yep.
Yeah. He ended with 1 or 2 rebounds. It's a dismal performance, top to bottom.
Yeah. The thing is, if Kerr can't fix him, then I don't think anybody can.
Yeah.
It's not so much even Kerr, but like Curry, Draymond, the GM, Bob Myers, all of them. If they can't fix it, I don't think there's an organization that could do it.
Yeah, I agree. And having Draymond on the floor, you guys couldn't be more correct. I mean, he really is. He's that general out there. And I think that if he were out there, I believe you'd likely see a different Wiggins, because he seems like the type of individual that would hold him to the fire as well. You know?
Yeah, like like a middle linebacker kind of controls the defense and calls out audibles, and they'll do audibles on that on the defensive schemes. Draymond is kind of the middle linebacker for that Warriors defense, and I could see him on the court barking at Wiggins for missing an assignment or lagging up too much, and like in real time, like holding him accountable. So
absolutely,
like to undersell, Draymond not being out there on the court, live leadership, I think is really going to affect Wiggins' growth on the defensive end.
All right, in the battle for the late game, in the battle of the home court teams, we had the LA Clippers, of course, taking on the Lakers. 116-109 final score. Yeah, I mean, they match up with them pretty well, right?
Yeah, in recent memory, as the Clippers, I mean, for what I grew up recognizing what the Clippers were to what they've been for the last decade is definitely a lot more like formative, but specifically for the last 2 years, I think they play a lot more motivated. Where I don't feel like the Lakers really give a shit. Like they just kind of you guys are taking this so much more serious. But come playoff time, we know we have that confidence that we'll beat you at 4-2, 4-1 in a 7-game series.
Yeah. The Lakers, I mean, and we'll talk about them in a minute. When we talked about it in our preview show as well, you don't worry about them. Like you said, Cody, just show them the playoffs. Whether it's the 8th seed, whether it's the 1st seed, it's irrelevant. Just if they're in there, they are dangerous. And Anthony Davis and LeBron again. We'll talk about them, but let's talk Kawhi Leonard. 34 minutes, 26 points. But I would say, in my opinion, though, the star of that game had to be Paul George. 36 minutes, 32 points, averaging almost a point a minute. I mean, that is fantasy gold right there, guys. They had some decent bench work too. Lou Williams came off and dropped 11 points. Zubac, another 11 points there. They had several in double digits. Cody, tell me why you like the Clippers.
Some of their the additions that they've made to that bench to supplant what they lost during the offseason so far is looking pretty good. So I seen that Luke Kennard recently got paid. But I mean, that dude was like a 17-point-a-game scorer for the Pistons, and he didn't have the best game against the Lakers last night. But here's a guy I think that for their not so much 6-man because Lou Williams kind of holds that spot, but their spacer off the bench, or even I could foresee him starting at some point. Depends if they want to, what type of lineups they want to play. If they want to move Paul or Kawhi to the small ball 4, but Kennard can give him some really good minutes and really space the floor out for him. Serge Ibaka looked really good for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they have a good team. I mean they really do. They have a little bit of depth. Like you had mentioned, and I mean Kawhi, man, he's a baller. And Paul George, much like Kyrie Irving, it's just what do you get? He's mentally. I mean he almost reminds me of dare I say it, like a DeMarcus Cousins. Once he gets he gets trampled underfoot, he just seems to, I don't know, implode.
I think their biggest problem, the Clippers, is their mental toughness. And to your point, completely. I think their biggest weakness, and what we saw last playoffs, was their ability to mentally withstand getting punched in the face. What do you think, Cody?
I feel it's a 2-part thing, or maybe a multi-level thing. I'll put it that way. Is
pyramid scheme? There's a pyramid scheme coming on.
Yeah. What's that? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a reverse. It's a reverse funnel system. So Kawhi's always kind of been able to show his leadership on the court, but not really a good locker room leader.
Right.
But he can showcase himself on the court and lead that way. But he's not going to be the real rah guy in the back room. No. Paul George is the opposite. He thinks that he's got the voice in the back in the locker room, but then on the court he doesn't show up. Mm-hmm. So it just is a very weird, mismanaged set of voices. Yeah. I feel like the rest of the team is you leave a power vacuum of well, what the hell? You guys are the 2 max guys, the guys that we should be leading into war, and we don't really know. It's pretty frenetic to figure out who are we following in a battle here. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, we take all that with a grain of salt. I mean, mental toughness. I mean, I start to cry if I do long division. I got a remainder left over, so we take that into a.
But you know what? Here's another thing that we're not really mentioning is that we've got a very strong locker room leader in the form of Patrick Beverley. That guy on the court and off the court, he's kind of your mini leader of any team, right? He's a strong voice and a good ally.
He's consistent. He really is.
And you don't want to play him if you're going up against him. He's gonna bother the shit out of you, and and he's gonna talk, and he's gonna get in your face, and I love it.
Yep.
My only
stiff D. Go ahead.
Yeah, My only problem with him is like he kind of has that Paul George thing though too, where it's like you talk a lot, but you don't really show up a lot though either.
Right.
Like,
There's
like,
two parts. Yeah.
Like he could play some annoying defense on people, which I can totally appreciate. But as far as like hitting a 3 in crunch time,
oh yeah,
I don't really. I feel like the time's passed on Beverly to be relied on with that.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
So I don't know. I feel like that team it's ultimately going to be a chemistry issue, and I feel like Kawhi needs to kind of grow up a little bit and be that, like, I'm the leader both on and off the court, and
happen.
relegate Paul George to like you're going to be my Scottie Pippen, to his Jordan.
Bitch.
You know what I mean? Like, it just something's got to happen. I feel like Paul George thought he could seize the locker room when it's actually like I imagine most players on that team say it's Kawhi's team, but Kawhi won't say he won't step up and be. Yeah, he's like, I don't care. I'll just go do my thing on the court.
Well, so let me ask you guys this: last night was not a must-win because it's game one, but as sort of a statement game. Out of the two teams, who needed the win? Who should have got it? I thought the Clippers needed to get this win.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like for them, they did shuffle that roster around. They had the embarrassing 3-1. They let that 3-1 deficit go away to Denver. They should have faced the Lakers in conference finals.
Couldn't even get there.
They let it slip away because they were too cocky, and they really need to come out and punch the Lakers in the face, and they showed that. But time will tell. I know, me too.
Jake, I wouldn't say like must.
Not must win, but is it any?
Not a must win, but
yeah.
I think a statement, like you said. I think that to come out and especially against the last year's champs, because they had all their I would say outside of who would you say maybe had the best offseason pickups? Probably if not their top three. The Lakers did, as far as their off-season acquisitions. So you know what you're getting with the Lakers, But this with the Clippers, I definitely agree. I think it was not a must-win, but it was definitely one of those. Listen, we want to come out, we want to punch them in the jaw. We want to show them that we are,
But if you remember last season, last season's opening night, everybody, Lakers versus Clippers. Does anybody know who won that one? You remember?
Clippers.
So guess what? It doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, it's exactly that though. It really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But Ricky's point, it's like it's a statement.
They need a
it's
statement.
Getting that. Yeah. Get out there and like, who are we? We got a new coach. We replaced some of our key positions. Let's show them what we're capable of. I tend to believe that like I don't think it really matters though either because like. If I look at the scoreboard, when it really counts, the Clippers didn't win the championship. The Lakers did. So,
Yep. Where do you see him? And I know I asked this of all the teams, but where do you see where would they be?
The Clippers?
Mm-hmm.
I think I could see them being the number 1 seed. I could see them. Well, the way I view it though is I had the Lakers as my 1 seed, and then. As I look at their roster and the time load management with the Lakers, what they want to do, they're 75 days away from their last basketball game played. So if they rest AD and LeBron periodically, I think as long as their tickets get stamped to go in the playoffs, they don't care what seed they are. Where I can see the Clippers taking every game serious. New coach going like, no, we're going to get the top seed. They're going to be more motivated to clinch that, to give their own team that narrative that they can compete with the Lakers.
Yeah, I can definitely see them like the Nets of the West. They could be as low as 1 or 2. And they could, shit can go sideways with them. Much like Irving and Durant out there in the East, and they could end up in the 5th or 6th slot. I mean, it's too early to tell, but I like to throw that out there just to get your input on that. Let's switch over to the Lakers. I'm going to say the star of last night's game, even though they had lost 116 to 109. Dude, that Schroeder looked good. I mean, he was 2 assists shy of a triple double. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, Dennis Schroeder looked great. He was assertive. He was running the offense. Like he looked the part. Like
yes,
I remember he was complaining about not he told the media that he didn't go to the Lakers to come off the bench. He only did that for OKC. So and he showed it. Like he could be that third star for that team.
Yep. He's a quiet pick on FanDuel or DraftKings. You know, you can kind of get if you get him at a low enough price, he can pay dividends for you in some tournament matchups there for it. Gasol, oh my God. I mean, there wasn't really the boards were spread across pretty evenly for both teams and stuff. I think they ended with the same amount of boards. I think around 44 or something like that a piece or something like that. But what a dismal performance. I mean, only 12 minutes, but you know, 1 board, 1 assist, no points. You know, I mean, that's Greg Ostertag numbers right there, buddy.
Yeah, well, I think people got to realize too, like they're not getting Defensive Player of the Year Marc Gasol. They're getting the wily old vet that's been playing for 12 years. So
yeah,
if you think he's gonna go put up like 20 and 10, you have to realize he's 32, 33 years old. Like a lot of mileage on his legs. Like
yeah,
his role to this team, his contributions are gonna count when the playoffs come up. Can he give them 20 minutes off the bench, play solid defense, make smart passes? Like, I wouldn't bank on anything. Like, to your point with the DraftKings and FanDuel thing, like, do not draft Marc Gasol if you're looking. Like, he's not going to be giving you good numbers.
Yeah, unless you get him cheap price, 3,300, you know, and just so happens that he's starting, you know, and he's going to give you 25, 26 minutes or something like that, you know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was just. The name Gasol is, I'll say it's synonymous with performance, but I mean, Marc Gasol is, you know, I mean, he is what he is, you know, but I just, you know, just from watching him yesterday, you see a shell of a player, you know.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah, I agree too. I thought I would also clarify too, is I would expect more than that performance. Some type of, 6 maybe with maybe a few assists and a block or something, but I kind of get the impression that this might be his, like, riding the coattails to maybe another championship.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be surprised if he retired after this year.
Yeah. Nor would I. I mean, I was surprised when Jake said that he went to LA. I was like, what the shit? I thought he was done with already, but what about let's talk the superstars, of course. Anthony Davis, 31 minutes, 18 points, 7 boards. Of course, the King, 28 minutes, 5 boards, 5 assists, 22 points. Relatively quiet nights from the superstars, but I mean, compared to what they, their normal output, what did you see from those players?
I just kind of felt they were uninspired. Like usually, like ring ceremony, kind of had that championship like hangover. There wasn't really like I guess I could look at LeBron saying like you still got it. You're still able to make cuts at the basket, dunk all over people, hit threes, but it just didn't seem like I seen a lot of energy from him. I'd be more concerned about Anthony Davis. Like you'd expect when nights where LeBron doesn't show up and show that type of energy. He is going to be 36 at the end of the month. You think that the spry young guy could step up and carry the load. So I'd be more concerned about like his low energy level, but I attribute this. There's a lot of emotions going on with getting your championship ring. Their loss it's not catastrophic to what they're trying to accomplish.
No, by no means. I mean, and 2 weeks from now, we're going to look back at this podcast and be like, what the shit? These guys are high on crack, because they can easily just turn around just like that, and that's
there's so many games to be played. It's like if you were to go over every game and mark the highs and lows, you'd give yourself a panic attack.
I know, right? It's there's an ebb and flow to every sport, to every game. Dude, I don't know how I didn't know this because I followed him since he started in the league, but LeBron, 36 years old. Wow. That's, I was beside myself when I heard it yesterday. I was like, holy shit. I guess it just didn't it didn't dawn on me that it was that old. He always, like Kobe was the same way, you know. Kobe seemed, and probably because they started right out of high school, you know. They just seemed like they were that much younger. Like they'd always be 4 years younger than anyone else they were playing against, you know. Even if they were in, 12, 13 years in the season, you know, and a rookie. In my mind, you know, I had a hard time wrapping around, the 36 years old for LeBron. So yeah, I mean, he's not the spring chicken that used to be. Then again, I mean, he's just an amazing specimen. You know, I can easily see him. No shit, I can easily see him playing into his 40s.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I can see him playing into his 40s at a high level. Like, not so much like win the MVP, but like he could be an all-star caliber guy, like off of what he contributes, not like legacy award, MVP or all-star caliber player in his 40s.
Without a doubt, I don't see him. I was gonna say I don't see him as the type that would cling into the NBA to the point where you resided to to play off the bench. You get 20 minutes or so. I really believe that he'll at some point he'll be the one, like Seinfeld. He'll be the one to bow out. And likely when he's on top.
Yeah, he might be one of the rare guys. It's not a lot of people get that opportunity. It's old age kind of dictates it for you. Yeah. And it's not like a relative old age, because it always kills me with LeBron too. Is like I'm like 2 months older than he is, and you hear people talk about him like he's a grandpa. I'm like, bitch, I'm like 2 months older than him. Like, take it easy. Huh?
LeBron. Now I will say this though, Cody, and we may have lost Jake. I will say that he reminds me of, dude. LeBron is like his physique. I mean, because I don't think there's a better physique right now in the NBA, and I always hold, and probably likely always will hold, the mailman as like the quintessential, just
specimen.
Yeah, I mean, you're from Utah. I'm from Utah. I've seen him several times after games and stuff like that. Going to the locker room and and being down in that level, and he just, even when you're like. And I'm a big guy, I mean, I'm about 6 feet, but I mean, not only his presence height wise, but just his guns. And I know we've seen he running up the side of the Wasatch Mountain with the big parachute on his back, just his workout routine is an absolute, it's a marvel just to see,
Oh, absolutely. Like what always amazes me with LeBron, but like the gift that he has is that I think he's 5 pounds less than what Karl Malone played at as far as weight. It's not to say that like LeBron's pretty cut, pretty sleek himself, so it's not like you can have a fat guy that weighs as much as Karl Malone. This dude's he's cut, he's chiseled out of stone almost, but this dude runs as quick as a guard, and he can run a break. Like, Karl Malone was one of my favorite players growing up, obviously being from Utah. But seeing someone like LeBron, where I kind of step back and marvel at how, at his greatness, is that you're the size of Karl Malone, but you're as fast as John Stockton. You can make plays like John Stockton. Like that's you don't make many like that. There's not many players that have that size, speed, and just like God-given court vision to make the plays that he does.
Without a doubt. I mean, we joke, about the GOAT and all that, but I mean, he really is. I mean, there's a presence to him, and very few NBA players have that presence, that presence about him, and his, in his physique really kind of drives that home,
Yeah, interesting thing that you compare him to Karl too is, so if LeBron wins the MVP this year, so it'll be age 36, and he stands a good chance to get it this year, he will break the record for the oldest MVP ever, which was set by 35. So
no kidding. You may know this off the top of your head. What's how old was the mailman when he retired?
I want to say he was 41.
Okay.
I know that he was the oldest player ever to record a triple-double. Yeah, and he didn't have a lot of those either. Like it was something. He was playing with the Lakers and he got it. I want to say he was 41 when it happened.
LeBron's son might end up playing with him. I mean, I think that's maybe what he's holding out for. Well, say he's holding out. I mean, we know he's going to play for at least another 5-6 years.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He's pretty much said as much as that his extension that he signed pretty much allows him to be a free agent by the time his son Bronny graduates high school. So wow. I think the stars are kind of aligning to where I think he wants to play one season with his son, and then I think he'll hang him up after that.
Where do you think they'll play? Do you think they'll be playing in L.A.? Because I know they're living out there now, obviously, but I think even before he went to the Lakers, he had a house out in L.A.
It depends on where Bronny's his NBA stock's at. Like, so all signs are kind of pointing that he's an NBA gifted player. It's if he's like a top 5 pick type of thing in 2024, it could be something that he'll sign with whatever team drafts him.
Yeah.
No matter the cost, he'll sign a veteran minimum just to play with him. But I don't think Bronny will be a top 5 pick. He'll probably be he'll be somewhere in the first round, like maybe the tail end, just off the pedigree, But
yeah, I think name recognition alone might bump him up a few spots, but really at the end of the day, Yeah,
like if the Lakers say like Bronny can he's gonna slip to like a second round prospect, maybe the Lakers spend a first round pick just to get him to retain LeBron for one more year. That's probably both Bronny and LeBron's they'd probably both want that, but
yeah.
If Bronny develops even more to where he can be like a lottery pick, I think LeBron's going to take free agency and just go, whoever drafts him, you're going to get my services.
Exactly. And if that does come to fruition, which it sounds as though it likely will in the future, listeners take note. That's how you properly use NBA clout, not how James Harden would use it. That's how you.
Yeah, don't. Especially in a pandemic year, and you're going to go to a strip club without a mask, pretty hard to defend.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing to me.
And unlike MLB, baseball, who's had several father and son combinations playing, some I believe on the same team and everything. Something tells me Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. come to mind. But in any event, I don't believe, and we'll have to double check this, but I don't believe that any father and son have ever played together in the NBA.
At the same time, I'm trying to go through the Rolodex in my brain, but I know there's been father-son duos that there's been gap years, but I can't ever recall them playing at the same time. The only one, no, I think baseball's the only one I can really think of.
Because you have to understand, there's only a few NBA players that can play past 40. I mean that hardwood, it chews up your knees, the size of them and stuff, whereas baseball, it's, you can go 3-4 innings before you get any action in left field,
Oh yeah.
And then,
it's like, do you remember Jeff Samardzija that used to play? He was a wide receiver for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I do actually. How I know that, but
yeah. So he was famous for this whole thing, right? Maybe not famous, but he is famous relative to his baseball acumen. But yeah, and being a good pitcher, but he chose baseball over football because he's like, I can play 17 years of baseball. Football, I could play 3 years. You don't know what's going to happen. So baseball is more driven to you can have longevity, and they get guaranteed contracts too. So baseball, it's not absurd to play 25 years. Basketball, but basketball it can happen. Football, there's pretty much no fucking way unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean he's another. Try that again. So for the most part, Cody, I mean I think you guys would agree as well. A pretty uneventful opening night, I guess you'd call it. Maybe just a tip opening night. Of course, Thursday we're gonna have I believe how many games are playing Thursday, Cody? Do you know?
It's on Friday. We should have 5 of the Christmas games.
Yes.
So those are usually the good marquee matchups. It's usually my favorite day to watch basketball.
We'll be back, of course, in for our Christmas edition here. I know that Jake celebrates Kwanzaa, and I'm of course lighting a menorah here Being Jewish, Cody, I know you're a devil worshiper, so we'll have some content out for you for your listening pleasure here.
I do have a goat to sacrifice. So.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It is fun to watch you around the holiday. Because we've had some technical difficulties with Jake. He's coming in and out. I will say this, LeBron James is the GOAT. And Jake, if you have any disagreements to that, just go ahead and cite them right now. If we get nothing, I'll just take your silence as you agree with me and that you put Jordan third or fourth right behind Allen Iverson.
Yeah, Jake, your silence is complicit.
Yes.
We know that you have nothing to defend yourself with, so...
I knew it.
LeBron's the GOAT, and fuck me. Let's throw Bill Russell at second. How about that?
Yeah, there we go, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't like it, defend yourself.
Yeah, defend yourself, yeah. That is it, folks. Thank you so much. Once again, hit like and subscribe. Yeah, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and, of course, the YouTube. Cody, always a pleasure, my man. Jake the Snake, always a pleasure. We will see you guys for our special holiday Christmas edition. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.